Hello, and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence.
And I'm Meg Hospital.
And this week we're talking about the Guillermo del Toro movie, Mimic.
Woohoo! I actually didn't realize it was a Guillermo del Toro movie until it started. Did you?
No, I didn't, and so I think that's super awesome.
Yeah, it's very timely since he's having a moment right now. So that was kind of fascinating that it just sort of happened by coincidence.
So speaking of timely, we are recording the episode this week when it's going to air, and we had a huge snowstorm in Minnesota, everybody.
Yeah, so we could not get together. As you guys know, we live about 4 hours away, so the snow is preventing us from getting together, but thankfully phones exist, so hopefully this works out.
Yeah, what a miserable time. And so, like, there was this forecast earlier in the week that said up to 20 inches, someplace over 20 inches, and it just seemed like, oh, they're just trying to scare us. But it really happened.
It's ridiculous.
How many?
But it's real.
How many inches did you get in Rochester? Do you know?
I don't think we got quite as bad as even like the cities and west of here. My sister-in-law lives west of here, and it looked like they got 20 inches. We didn't get that. We probably got like 8 inches or so. But how about up in Duluth?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's like more than we need for middle of April.
Yeah, I know. So my Dexter had his birthday party, and thankfully people came, but I have a friend who's nobody came to her daughter's birthday party this last weekend because of the storm, and I just felt so bad. In the middle of April, like you aren't expecting that. It's just craziness.
No, it's miserable. But it's going to melt soon, I just know it.
Yeah, it's going to melt fast, and we're going to be out there, and us Minnesotans, like, it'll be like 48 degrees, and we're going to be outside, like, in our shorts.
Yeah,
now,
it'll be fine.
So it'll be fine. It'll be good. Summer's coming, right?
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do you have some background on this movie? Did you look it up?
Yeah. Okay. So so it came out in 1997, and as we were just talking about, it was directed and co-written by Guillermo del Toro. And it's based on a short story by an author named Donald A. Wollheim. I'm not familiar with him, but as I was watching it, I was thinking about how it was based on a short story, and I thought it would probably make a cool story. It's starring Mira Sorvino, Jeremy Northam, Josh Brolin, Charles S. Dutton, F. Murray Abraham, and it's the film debut of Norman Reedus, which I thought was interesting.
I didn't.
Did you spot Norman Reedus in it?
No, I did not.
Yeah, he's in it. He has like 5 lines or something.
Okay.
Like, he is when Mira Sorvino, I don't know what she's doing. She's investigating, and he's like showing her a body, I believe, or something, or maybe not a body. Maybe it's like a body of one of the icky things. But anyway, he's so fresh faced and so not Daryl like that. It was probably hard to spot him.
Oh.
It made $25.5 million in the box office, and it had 2 direct-to-video sequels, Mimic 2 and Mimic 3. Apparently, Del Toro was not happy because he didn't get to have the final cut of the film, but his director's cut version came out in 2011, which I haven't seen. I'd be interested to see like what the differences are.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, had you seen this movie before?
Okay, so I have not, but when you said this movie, what I was imagining, I was picturing the movie Species. Do you remember that movie?
Oh, yes.
So for some reason, I had that movie mixed up, like in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that movie, but I was expecting the other movie, and I was like, oh, thank God, this one's better, and I loved it.
It's funny that you say that because I liked this movie when I was a kid. It came out when I was 13, so I was kind of the perfect age for it. But it's funny because there are parts of it that I mixed up with that movie. Do you remember that movie, The Relic?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I kind of like mixed up some parts of that and like mishmashed those 2 movies together. So it was kind of interesting to watch this and be like, oh, wait, that one thing I thought was in this movie is actually in The Relic. Because I think there was kind of like this sort of rise of movies like that in like the late 90s.
I guess so.
I'm guessing it's because like special effects were getting really good, you know, and so they could start making, I mean, I hesitate to say really good because obviously not compared to now, but I think, they were getting advanced, so they were making more movies like that. But anyway, yeah, so, well, I'm curious then, especially to hear what you think, since you've never seen it.
Yeah, well, okay, the movie starts and it has this amazing credit sequence, and I loved it. It's like showing all of the science, and it's telling all of this backstory, but really cleverly. And then we start seeing these sick kids, and boy, I don't know. I mean, it would have broken my heart then, but it really hits me now as a mother. How about you?
Yeah, and I mean, not to flash forward too much, but there's actually kids dying in this movie, which was interesting. But yeah, no, in the beginning, and that, like, okay, there's nothing more dire than sick kids. So I thought that set up a good sort of impetus for Mira Sorvino's character to sort of do what she did.
The thing that's cool too is having the kids' perspective, but then also the scientist or expert perspective. And it's such a nice way to show this creepy thing happening, but from those very different points of view. I thought it was really clever.
That's a really good point. I didn't think of that, of sort of the dichotomy of, like, how she's seeing things and, like, how, and really the kids really represent more just anybody.
Yeah.
Because, I certainly wouldn't look at a huge bug from a scientific sort of point of view. So yeah, that's true. And yeah, I mean, I have talked before on Horror Rewind about how much I hate big bugs. So this movie always sort of creeped me out, the idea of, like, bugs being, like, human-sized and acting like humans. Like,
yeah.
That's not okay.
No. I wrote down, like, if there were bugs this big flying around, I would never go outside again. Like,
No.
There's just no way.
You could tell me, right, like, you could tell me, like, they're all gone. Like, don't worry, Meg, we got all the big, huge, human-sized bugs of the city. I would never believe you.
No. Oh, there's this really cool shot in the beginning. This guy falls off the building, but when he lands, it's a white paint splatter. I thought that was really clever.
Oh, yeah, that is cool. That is very cool. Yeah, there's some neat shots that definitely you can see Del Toro sort of his influence, and that this is definitely not your typical commercial director, because there's some neat shots. So what do you think of her character and sort of her struggles and all that?
I thought she was great. I was happy. There's 2 female scientists in it, which is great. Mm-hmm. And yeah, am I missing anything about her character that you noticed?
Well, I mean, I like that she sort of made a mistake.
Yeah.
And this movie is really about, like, her coming to terms with she basically upset the this sort of, I don't know, genetic sort of mutations and all that, and she's sort of to blame for all of this in a way.
Oh, right.
And I like how she sort of has, I mean, like, that's something I always love, is, like, a character who's really done something really bad, and then they have to sort of, like, come to terms with it, and then they kind of get their opportunity to sort of kick ass. And so I thought she was a really good example of characters I love in horror movies, where and then she also sort of had this, like, backstory about, like, wanting to get pregnant, and I don't know, it humanized her, and it sort of helped kind of show, like, that she's human and what she's going through and everything. So I thought she was developed really well, and I thought this movie is definitely her movie, and I felt like of course, my normal complaint that you guys keep hearing is I don't like that Jeremy Northam sort of stole the climax from her. He got to have the big moment, but she did get to have the moment where she saved the child. So in the end, she really got to be sort of the victor.
Absolutely. One thing, this is a little on a more base level, but she didn't look perfect in the movie, and she was dirty, and she had wet hair, and they didn't, like, all of a sudden she's perfect looking again after going through everything. So that was something I noticed too. It wasn't like the Disappointments Room where Kate Beckinsale has full makeup and done hair when she wakes up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It was just like she felt real.
Oh my God. That's a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's always appreciated when they don't look ridiculously perfect, and yeah, she's just like a normal person. I mean, as normal as beautiful Mira Sorvino could be.
Right.
But yeah. So okay. This is a total sidebar.
Yeah.
I think people will be okay with it. Since I was talking about Norman Reedus, just sidebar nation, as they say on My Favorite Murder, what do you think about Walking Dead right now?
I have given up. I haven't watched the past, 5 weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so the finale was this last Sunday. And this whole season, I was one of the last holdouts where, because people have been jumping ship for a while. And I'm like, it's still good, but this last season was so boring. And, isn't that kind of why you left? Just boring?
Yeah, it was boring. And also, I didn't like Negan. And I know that you felt different things for Negan than I did. And I just didn't find him interesting anymore. It was just the same thing over and over. I did fast forward and watch when they found out that Carl had been bitten. And that made me cry. But other than that, I was so bored. I was like, I'm not going to spend an hour of my week like this because I don't have time for that in my life.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's repetitive. It's just the characters aren't growing. There's no growth and no change. And I appreciate that Walking Dead has a certain aesthetic, but even the aesthetic is getting to me where I'm like, oh my gosh, do something different, have something visually different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just it just looks the same all the time.
I mean,
and the characters just keep doing the same thing. I do like Negan. I find him one of the more interesting characters. Actually, the most interesting character right now is Eugene. That was the only character I found somewhat interesting because he was going through this sort of process of who is he with? But it's Rick, we already watched him grapple with his humanity 500 times, and I'm just over it. And so the last holdout, the official last holdout, is Luke, my husband, because he still thinks everything's just fine.
Okay.
I don't know. It was boring. I really hope they take a new direction. Oh, and then I'll say it, spoiler alert, but they pretty much act like Maggie's going to be a villain now.
What?
And yeah, they treated her like a villain in the last episode, and it was just kind of are you kidding me? So anyway, that's just my very off-topic feelings about Walking Dead. But anyway, back to Mimic. What did you think about? What do you think about Jeremy Northam?
Well, I didn't even know who this was. I wrote down, who is this guy in the glasses? Wait.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's him, right?
Oh, okay.
The guy with the glasses, that's him?
Yes. He's from, Emma. He's a lot of, British, he's, he's sort of Colin Firthy, where he, plays those kind of characters and stuff.
Yeah.
So
no, I liked him, and I didn't realize it was him.
But I kind of like that he's, it's certainly her movie, and he's sort of secondary. But now I'm getting upset now because he gets to have the big moment where he freaking blows up he gets to have the big fiery moment. He blows up all the gross, disgusting sacks of these eggs or whatever of these mimic creatures.
I know.
And then he gets to have his heroic moment. And I was like, what? This isn't your movie. Get out of here.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, I get mad.
I really liked, speaking of the gross egg sacs, they had these practical effects that weren't special effects of reaching into the dead bug and squeezing out pus and all of those.
Yeah.
I feel like those egg sac things were gross, and everyone was so noble and willing to sacrifice themselves. I don't know if I'd be that noble.
Oh, that's a good point. Actually, I kind of almost felt like there were maybe too many.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, there's too many golden-hearted people here sacrificing themselves. This is getting out of hand. Because doesn't Josh Brolin, I think, maybe, or does he? I can't remember. But yeah,
I feel like everybody does.
People. Oh yeah, when they take all the nasty stuff out, and that again makes me think of Walking Dead because they take all the stuff, kind of like how they did when they rubbed zombie guts on them,
oh,
and they
right.
rubbed the bug guts on them.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was a good moment. I love that.
Now, Guillermo del Toro, I realize he is a brilliant filmmaker, and he sets up so many subtle, uncomfortable shots in this movie that it just makes you feel icky. And they set up these bugs so well. Like, I already think bugs are disgusting, but it's not in a way that it's like creepy crawly. It actually makes you feel gross.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Oh my gosh, and like, okay, so it's called Mimic, and it's about, obviously, them mimicking us looks-wise, but there's also like, the sounds they make, and then that little boy is like mimicking their sounds, and then he's sort of like drawn into their layer, and it's just like, oh,
it's so clever, and I had no idea. I mean, it's like a huge gross Mothman. Like, that's disgusting.
It's disgusting. I mean, like, when she like puts the things together and realizes like they make it look like they have like a human face. Like, that's brilliant. Like, it's one of those things, like when I wrote a review of Quiet Place, it was one of those things where I'm like, why didn't I think of that? And this is another one of those things where I'm like, why didn't I think of that for a story? That's such a good idea.
I know. It's so smart. I really loved it. And I don't know why I never saw this, but yeah, it must have just come out at that time where I just didn't get to the video store and see it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like I said, don't you feel like there's so many movies from the late 90s like this, though?
Yeah, definitely.
Like this type?
It just
but
sort
I
of
think
like...
this one is better than others.
It is. It got lost in the crowd, but I'm very happy that you brought it to my attention, because it's solid.
Good.
You know, this reminded me... Do you remember, like, 2 years ago now, we saw the preview for that movie Bite, and people...
And we never saw it.
Yeah, like,
Where did that movie go?
People were, like, throwing up and stuff, like, watching it, and then it was like, oh, it's going to be available to buy soon on iTunes, and I haven't seen it. And so...
We really wanted to watch it.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's seen Bite. Maybe it's available now and we just haven't, like, looked for it, but I wrote it down, like, this reminds me that we should seek out that movie, because it looked really good. Like, a girl, if you haven't seen the preview, you guys, this girl gets bit by a bug or something, and then she becomes like a bug. It looks really gross.
It looks really gross. Okay, so I just Googled it, and, it's got bad reviews.
Aww.
It's a Canadian movie.
Okay.
Where can we watch it, though? Where can well, I don't know. If anybody's seen it, I'd love, like, tweet us or something, because I'd be curious to know if it's good. I mean, who knows? If it has bad reviews, I mean...
Maybe it's not worth it.
Sometimes movies have bad reviews, and it's not fair, so...
Anything else you want to say about this movie, Mimic?
You know, I would love to sort of see another sort of rise of these kind of movies. I like sci-fi horror movies like this. And, I mean, when I was 13 and it came out, like, I was totally into all those types of movies. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, I can't complain about the horror movies that we're getting right now. But, yeah, I would love, like, I love a good creature movie, a bug sort of movie. And, I mean, she's obviously she's no Clarice Starling, but she's definitely an interesting sort of science sort of invested woman, and she's got sort of this heavy burden on her shoulders, and I don't know, I thought she was a cool character, so I'd love to see more movies like this.
You know, there was a similar, I've talked about this before on the podcast, there was a similar kind of TV show, and it was based on, I think, a book or something. It was called Prey, and it starred Deborah Messing, pre-Will and Grace, but it was this same sort of thing, and it was a sci-fi, I think it was on ABC, but it only lasted a season. But I watched it, and it was similar. It was a female
like
scientist, and and like the humans were the prey. So
it sounds vaguely familiar, but maybe only because you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Maybe because I haven't actually seen it.
I have talked about it before, but
I can imagine it. I can imagine what it was like in my mind.
Yeah. I guess, if it hadn't gotten canceled, we wouldn't have had Will and Grace, or we would have had someone else in the role of Grace. I don't know.
That's true.
Is anybody watching that?
TV.
Like, who's still watching that?
Are you talking about the new episode?
Yeah.
No, have you?
No. I'm just wondering who's watching. I don't know. Like, it's just done for me. Obviously, I don't hate all reboots. I watch the X-Files. Not reboots, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with some, there's some shows I wouldn't mind if they bring back. Still, like, I'm up for it. But you know what it is? It's the laugh track.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was okay back in the 90s before we knew better. But,
Right.
like, I don't think I can handle the laugh track anymore.
I know.
Personally. What I was going to say is you gave me a recommendation, and I actually watched something you told me to watch.
What did you watch?
I watched Wild Wild Country all in one day.
Did you? Okay, well, you must have enjoyed it then.
I did. I watched the whole thing. It was so good. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, and it's about a cult. And I knew a little bit about it. Like, I had listened to a podcast about, it. But this was fascinating.
Oh, I think cults are fascinating because where are you in your life and your mindset in order to get pulled into a cult? And I will watch any documentary about a cult. You should write a story about a cult.
Ooh, okay, good idea. That's a really good idea, actually.
Because there's some horror there.
It's so fascinating, and they're always, I mean, can you think of any cults that are led by women?
No.
Does that exist?
I mean, Sheila was like Sheila in that movie was like the closest to a female cult leader, but she definitely didn't start it. She was just the brains behind it, or, whatever.
Yeah, she was a fascinating person. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a just like compelling person to learn about.
Yeah, oh my
gosh. You guys
gosh.
have to watch that if you haven't. I don't know, it's just so, and like, why does every cult thing always turn into like weird sex stuff?
Right.
Like, there's not one cult that doesn't have weird sex stuff going on. I'm sorry.
I know.
I don't think so. Heaven's Gate, maybe. No, I'm sure they had weird sex stuff. Never mind. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's fascinating, and yeah, like, you just wonder, like, I think it's like anything when you're watching it, you're like, is there any piece of me that would be susceptible to that?
I know.
Is there any part of me that would be like, oh, okay, I'll come and see what that's all about, and like pretty soon, like, then all of a sudden, like, I'm a Scientologist or something. I don't know.
I can't imagine it, and the thing is, like, even when I've been in a not so great relationship or friendship, there's always a piece of me in the back of my mind that's saying, okay, this isn't right, or they're taking advantage of me, or whatever. Like, I've never lost myself completely to a relationship or friendship where I didn't know that it was negative. I just can't.
Yeah, like,
I don't know.
You still have that voice,
right? So
it's very fascinating.
Yeah.
It's there, and there's just so many, and like, I mean, when you watch that and you realize the scope of how many people were involved in that.
I know.
Anyway.
Okay, let's rank Mimic on a scale of 0 to 10. Okay. And what are we going to use? It has to be some sort of bug-related thing, right?
I think it should be bug guts on his leg wound.
Oh, that is perfect.
They literally had to put it in his, like, weeping, bloody wound.
Yes.
He had to put bug guts in it.
Yes, you're right. Okay.
That's what stuck with me the most.
Oh my gosh. Okay, no, that's perfect. Okay, out of 0 to 10 bug guts in a bloody wound, how many do you give Mimic?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5 because I really enjoyed it. It was really good. As usual, I'm crabby about the climax, but I really liked your character, and I thought overall it had pretty good visual effects, and it was pretty good.
And I'm giving Mimic, but bug guts on a bloody wound, 8 of them, because I was really, really surprised by this movie. I was pleasantly surprised, and
Good.
I thought it had so many amazing shots. And obviously, he's an amazing filmmaker, so we were in good hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who knew?
Now, Lisa is brilliant, and she's like, well, how would I make a drink for Mimic? And she was like, oh, I know. Things that would either repel bugs away from you or would bring bugs to, like, trap them. And so just wait until you hear this recipe. Are you ready? Have you ever had a drink called a lemon drop? They are delicious, aren't they? Well, that's what Lisa has created this week. It's similar to a lemon drop, but not exactly. You're going to need 2 ounces of vodka, half an ounce of lemon juice, half an ounce of chamomile tea simple syrup. You want to decorate your glass with honey and then sugar. Mix up all of your ingredients in a shaker, pour it into your decorated glass, and enjoy. It's going to taste like candy. It's going to be yummy.
Well, I wanted to say that let's talk about Slendytubbies today. That's extra scary for the horror count today.
Okay, great. Tell us about Slendytubbies. What are they exactly?
Teletubbies with slender.
With Slenderman faces?
Yes.
And why are they so scary?
Because the game just is doing that today. That's what happens. Chapter 0 is pretty much breaking the custom machine but then the Teletubby runs away to the beach and everything. Then a Teletubby is dead. So then you're getting chased around and getting hanged up then at the end of the chapter. So you can say, Mommy.
Wow. Okay, well, I know that Slendytubbies have been around for a few years because there's these YouTube videos that have surfaced that my 4-year-old is playing. And also, she's been singing a song with Teletubbies rolling down a hill. Do you want to sing it?
You see me rolling in the hay tin, trolling chats get me rendered, chats get me rendered, chats get me rendered. Yeah.
Excellent. Good job, Vienna.
Yes.
Can you say goodbye to all the horror fans out there?
Bye. We'll talk about it on my horror channel.
Yes, tune into Vienna's podcast. This was just an extra perk. All right, it's time for our fast forward segment. And since you picked the movie, I'm going to talk to you about something that I saw last weekend.
Okay, I'm excited.
I went to see Truth or Dare in the theater.
You did?
I did.
Okay, I want to know.
Okay, so Truth or Dare, if you don't know, everybody, it came out on Friday the 13th, but I was able to see it Thursday night because it's faculty and student night and it's cheaper. And I brought my 10-year-old, or he's 11 now, sorry. I brought my 11-year-old, so hashtag judge me, but it wasn't that scary. It was PG-13. And, you know, Blumhouse, I love them. It was pretty solid. It's not like a great movie. It didn't scare me at all, but it had the crowd going, you know. That opening night horror movie crowd, it's fun.
Oh, I love an opening night horror crowd.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the best. That's my favorite time to go to the movie theater. That's my favorite situation because people are ready. Like, they want to be scared.
And so I kind of wish that I hadn't...
Tell us a little bit about the plot and all that.
Yeah, so it's a great setup. I think it's a great premise. And you know, you put yourself in this situation, it would totally suck. But this group of friends goes down for spring break. They get lured into this game of Truth or Dare, which seems pretty innocent. But once you're in the game, you can't get out. And if you refuse to play, you die. If you don't do your dare, you die. Or if you don't answer with the truth, you die. So...
Oh my God!
The game plays the people because it puts you in these situations where you have to do something or you have to reveal something that you definitely don't want to. So, you know, it's a really solid premise. I kind of wish that I hadn't seen the preview ahead of time because the creepiest things were in the preview, you know? And
yeah, I hate when that happens. Dang.
Yeah, but you know, it's okay. It was still
okay.
It was
you
still
feel
good.
Like you're okay about it.
Yeah. It's kind of like one of those movies where you should watch it at some point, maybe not go to the theater, but it's a solid horror movie. I appreciate that Blumhouse is putting out these well-made, interesting premise horror movies, and I'm going to support them.
Yeah, I think they are doing. You know, there's all this talk lately about, like, you know, this so-called, like, upper echelon sort of horror movies like Get Out and Shape of Water and stuff like that. And it's like, let's not pretend like horror is horror. And some movies are better than others, obviously. But sometimes it's nice to just watch one that is sort of a little more, I don't know if Blumhouse you'd call classic, but
right.
They are in a way, though. Like, they do sort of, like, have, like, a comfort level of, like, you kind of know what you're getting into in a way.
Right.
And it's just like people who are romance fans and things like that. Like, we want that, too. Like, we want that sort of comfort level of, like, okay, I know how, you know, like, a good example of, and I don't think this is a Blumhouse movie, but I'm thinking of that movie Wish Upon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that was just a good, like, that was just, okay, it's not going to, like, blow you out of the freaking water or anything.
It's not reinventing the genre.
It's a nice, solid movie. You know, like, you feel like, okay, that was good. That was a good horror movie, and it had some good scares in it. So, but it sounds like maybe this wasn't scary enough.
Well, maybe it wasn't scary enough for me, but I mean, people around me were screaming and hiding their faces. But you know what? I'm kind of like, I don't know. There's certain things that really scare me. And yeah, Campbell loved it. He was scared. He was hiding his face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's probably more solid than I'm saying it, giving it credit for.
You know what I saw this weekend? Have you seen Ready Player One yet?
No, is it good?
Oh my goodness. Okay. First of all, you have to take Campbell.
Okay.
The boys were just like, so we went on Dexter's birthday, and it's like made for our boys. I mean for kids. But I'm saying our boys, the way they love video games.
Yeah.
Like it's for them. And I don't want to spoil too much, but there is a big, long, shining Overlook Hotel sequence that is like, you won't even believe it. It's so good.
It's $5 Tuesday, so I might go when they get home from school. That's awesome.
Yes, yeah, definitely bring Campbell, because like my boys the whole time they were just silent, and you could see like it was just talking their language. Like if they were, but I enjoyed it too though. So we all it was a crowd pleaser. So
that's
awesome.
awesome.
It's Spielberg movie, so it's very much a crowd pleaser, but it's And the Shining sequence in it, for the horror fans out there, they literally go to the Overlook Hotel. That's all I'm going to say. But
oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it has what's her face from Bates Motel in it. So,
yes, I love her.
Horror stuff. Yes. Okay. Anyway,
one thing I wanted to say about Truth or Dare, and I've been noticing this more in Blumhouse movies and just movies in general, it has an extremely diverse cast, purposely.
Oh, cool.
And
That's
I
awesome.
I was very thankful. Oh, you know who's in it and people might appreciate is his name Tyler Posey from Teen Wolf?
Oh, yeah. He's a little cutie.
Yeah. And he's in it, and, you know, I know there's Teen Wolf fans. I have not watched that show, but maybe we need to give it a try.
No. Maybe we do.
And guess what, everybody? Okay, this is going to air on Thursday, and guess what was on last night? The Carrie musical episode of Riverdale.
I'm so excited.
And, okay.
I mean, it's Riverdale, which is amazing, and it's Carrie the musical.
I don't think we've fully...
we asked for.
We haven't fully talked about this yet. Like, we've said that we discovered Riverdale, but we did not realize the level of horror movie references and horror books and everything that this show possesses. Like, holy crap, I'm so excited. I'm going to watch Sabrina when it comes on Netflix. Like, I'm ready.
I know. Okay, first of all, I wrote a review for A Quiet Place, so that's up at Spider Mirror Journal. But I also wrote a review for Riverdale. I wrote an article about Riverdale that's not up yet.
Oh my
gosh! By Thursday. But as I was writing it, I came across an article about, it was all the references to Wes Craven in Riverdale. And so, anyway, it was really fun, because I noticed some, but there are other ones. And then you and I have noticed little Shining references and stuff like that. So that's been really fun. And so, yeah, there's just so many great references.
I love it so much. Like, it's just one of these shows that I dismiss as like, oh, it's on the CW, and maybe it's like too teen drama for me or whatever. But guess what? I love it, and I'm living it.
I know. I was rewatching it last night, and it's like, call me crazy. It is a teen drama, but I don't care. I love it.
No.
And it's got good murder mystery and great characters, and I don't care.
I don't care either. Woo! So everybody,
check our cult.
Yeah, this is our call to the cult of Riverdale. See, like, we're so hypocrites. We're like, I'll do anything for Riverdale.
I know. Yes. I'll move to some weird community and wear only pink. I'll do it.
I know. Okay, so watch some of our recommendations, people. If you haven't watched Mimic in a long time, you absolutely need to check it out. And until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.
Bye, guys.